Beyond Good and Evil, Part 3, The Religious Nature. In Chapter 3 of Beyond Good and Evil, Nietzsche highlights some of the defining aspects of the religious, particularly the Catholic, nature. One of the key aspects of Christianity that Nietzsche writes about is their inversion of moral values. He says that Christianity inverts all the typically good and virtuous values such as power, wealth, courage, open-mindedness, truthfulness, into bad ones. So Christianity now sees all these traditionally good values as bad, whilst now viewing those traditionally bad values such as meekness, humility and submission as good and as honourable values. Nietzsche writes, referring to the effect that this inversion of values has. He writes, "They smash the strong, contaminate great hopes, cast suspicion on joy and beauty, break down everything autocratic, manly, conquering, tyrannical, all the instincts proper to the highest and most successful of the type man, into uncertainty, remorse of conscience, self-destruction, indeed reverse the whole love of the earthly, and dominion over the earth into hatred of the earth and the earthly. That is the task the church set itself." Moreover, Nietzsche speaks of the type of man that this inversion of values creates. At last, a shrunken, almost ludicrous species, a herd animal, something full of goodwill, sickly and mediocre has been bred, the European of today. The effect of this is that the weak are able to elevate themselves over the strong. So because the weak lack the virtuous traits of a great and powerful man, they reverse the values. This means that they now view their characteristics of kindness, meekness and sympathy as those of a great man, whilst viewing the other traits, such as pride and power, as being immoral and bad. Hence, an inversion of values has taken place and the weak man allows himself to become greater than the strong and powerful man. One of Christianity's main purposes is to preserve and to care for the human species, but according to Nietzsche, the majority of people are sickly and weak and do not possess the will of a higher type of man. So Christianity comes to value these characteristics that are seen in the majority of the population, namely sympathy, humility and meekness. One of Nietzsche's most famous ideas links in very well here, and that is his notion of master versus slave morality. Master morality is characterised by when a nobleman creates their own values and is their own judge of those values. In other words, they do not seek the approval of others. Typically, master morality sees what is good as that which allows the higher type of man to flourish and excel, to be the best that he can be and to realise his full potential. However, slave morality is a response to master morality. They do not create their own values as the higher type of man does. Instead, their morality is a mere reaction to that of the masters. The masters create their own values by their own will and volition, and then the weak-willed men see that they can never reach those ideals, and thus they have to flip the whole of morality on its head, so that their traits are now at the top, whilst the masters' ones are at the bottom. Slave morality typically views what is good as that which is most useful to the whole of society, not what is most beneficial to the creation and the flourishing of the higher type of man. This means that they neglect the growth of the strong and turn him into a sick man by denying his potential for greatness. They strip him of what makes him powerful and unique and thus turn him into a mere herd animal. Next, Nietzsche writes about a key aspect of the religious instinct. He declares that the religious instinct constantly demands a sacrifice. Nietzsche states that there have been 3 different levels of sacrifices that characterise this society over the past. The first and most primal type of sacrifice was a physical sacrifice of a human being to one's god. Nietzsche stated that this type of sacrifice usually occurred by sacrificing a person that one loved highly, for example, a child or another loved one. Next, one sacrificed their instincts, their nature. For example, the Christian may neglect their instinct for community by living in isolation, or they may neglect their sexual desire by living in chastity. The third stage of sacrifice that Nietzsche believes was a fairly recent occurrence that happened around the time of the Enlightenment, was that people began to sacrifice the very idea of God himself. With the rise of scientific development, people started to replace God with science and determinism. This meant that we were now left with nothing, and so, as Nietzsche puts it, we have come to worship rocks, gravity, and fate. The religious instinct is almost paradoxical, as it denies what is good in life and what promotes greatness, and instead tries to suppress all other instincts. It is an instinct to suppress instincts. After a denial of these instincts, the religious man lives a life of isolation, humility, and chastity. Another point that Nietzsche raises is that the religious person fears man's true nature, so they seek to suppress it and to turn it into something else. This is an example of them exerting their will to power. So because of this fear, the religious person only loves men for the sake of God, not because of a genuine love, but because God has told them that they must. Another problem with Christianity and the religious life that Nietzsche points out is that religion is much more suited to the aristocracy than it is to the common man. Nietzsche writes that a genuine religious life requires external leisure or semi-leisure. The common man does not have enough time for genuine prayer. They cannot fully immerse themselves in it. It is only the aristocracy that have the free time to pursue a religious life. Another problem Nietzsche raises is that it is not clear to them whether it involves another business or another pleasure. It is not clear whether their religion should be a chore or a delight. It certainly feels like the former to many, and this gives the feeling that religion is only tolerated by the masses. It is certainly not embraced by them, but it is just a burdensome chore that they continue because it is traditional to do so. However, despite all of its flaws, Nietzsche states that religion could have some potential in giving rise to the higher type of man. This is because religion allows for social control and rulership, it gives the common man meaning, and most importantly, it can allow the elite to develop their noble traits, as religion offers a place for self-overcoming, silence, and solitude, all of which can help bring forth the rise of the higher type of man. However, the biggest problem of all religion is its inversion of values, which, according to Nietzsche, makes men sickly and weak and denies the emergence of a higher type of man. So, as long as the inversion of values does not occur, then Nietzsche believes that religion could have the potential for doing greatness for mankind by helping give rise to this higher type of man. Thank you very much for watching, and be sure to like if you found the video useful and subscribe for more videos. See you next time on Feeling Philosophical, and goodbye.